Sponsored by Ram Trucks, built to serve.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to First Things First. Jenna Wolf alongside the usual Nick Wright, Kevin Wiles. We got Brian Westbrook with us on a Thursday morning. We're all together. We're all on a line. We're all having so much fun. We have so much coming up on the program today. Cam Newton admitting he was actually worried about how he and Bill Belichick were going to mesh. Was he right? We will discuss. Odell putting the league on notice. What would a motivated OBJ actually look like with the Browns this season? And deal or no deal for Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys? That is our top story this morning. Let us dive right in. Yesterday's 4 p.m. Eastern deadline came and went without an agreement on a long-term deal, a deal which would have paid the quarterback between $33 and $35 million annually, with $110 million of that guaranteed. Cowboys reportedly wanted a 5-year deal. Dak wanted 4. A bridge too far for Dallas, and now once again, Dak will have to bet on himself and play this season on the $31.4 million franchise tag. So, Nick, could 2020 be Dak's last season with the Dallas Cowboys?
2020. It's very interesting because yesterday on the show, Jenna, I said I thought if they don't get a deal done, and they didn't get a deal done, 2021 would be his final year with the Cowboys. Franchised this year, franchised next year, then a true free agent. The whole league gets to bid on him. But I read Bill Barnwell, who I think is the smartest person writing about football today, read his column about how, given the potential lowering of the cap next year and the fact that no matter what the cap is, Dak's franchise tag number would be $38 million, which would be the highest of any cap hit for any player in the league this year. He already has the highest cap hit of any player in the league this year at $31 million. And the Cowboys' lack of real flexibility around that, and the fact that Dallas might be thinking what I'm thinking, which is that Dak is setting this whole thing up to hit true free agency in 2021 anyway, it would appear to me that the Cowboys would have to strongly consider after this season, unless they go on a Super Bowl run, what is Dak's value on the open market trade-wise? In a world where Jalen Ramsey can get you 2 first-round picks, where Laramie Tunsil can get you 2 1s and a 2, where we have seen receivers, Brandon Cooks can go for a first-round pick and then the next year go for another first-round pick. What does a 28-year-old in his prime, or 27-year-old he would be, quarterback fetch you on the open market via trade? So if Dallas and Dak, Brian, have a year similar to last year, where Dak's numbers are great, but the team is not, I do think the Cowboys will have these serious discussions of, if he's planning to leave us in 2 years anyway and we get nothing, does it make sense for us to recoup a lot on our investment a year before he can leave us for nothing? So I'm not predicting this will be his last year with the Cowboys, Brian, but I think it's absolutely on the board in a way that seemed inconceivable a few months ago.
You know, Nick, I agree with a lot that you're mentioning here, but I kind of start with the premise that Dak's numbers will be similar to what they were last year, but the record of the team will be better. You have a much better coach. Obviously, Jason Garrett got fired last year. Mike McCarthy comes in. He gets a little bit more out of Dak. Your weapons have been improved, and you now have a hungry Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield. And I just think that football team is a better team than the 8-8 record that they had last year, and they make it into the playoffs. And if they win a couple games in the playoffs, I think Dak certainly comes back. But I like the thought that you're mentioning about possibly a franchise tag and then trade. That may bring some value back to Dallas. But I'll say this. The only reason that in my opinion, that Dak won't be back next year is that if he's bad all year long, and I'm talking about if you start bad and then you finish strong, I think Mike McCarthy will stand up on the table after the season and say, you know what, we need Dak back. Look how well he did toward the end of the season. And of course, at the beginning, we had COVID and we didn't have many mini camps, and he improved so much, and now we need him back. But if he's bad all year long, then of course he won't be back. I just feel like the Cowboys are in a bad position. because now they have to figure out, with Zeke already being paid, with Amari Cooper already being paid, if Dak doesn't work out, who's going to be the next guy down the pipeline? And that may be next year or the year after that.
Well, if they trade, who's the quarterback? Nick, what do they need draft picks for? They need defensive ends? You need a quarterback. And who are they? So they trade Dak for picks. For what? A guy out of Clemson? Are they trading him for Kyler Murray or Deshaun Watson? I don't know in any way that a trade makes sense for Dallas.
Well, the last two franchise quarterbacks for the Dallas Cowboys, one was undrafted in Tony Romo. One was a fourth-round pick in Dak Prescott. They brought in Andy Dalton, not just because they love his gorgeous red hair, but because he's a more than competent backup. He's an above average. He's a great backup and probably a below-average starter. But with the 1 year Dalton was excellent was the year he had weapons similar to what Dallas has. And at some point, you've got to ask yourself the question: what the team Dallas needs to look to, if Dak is going to operate negotiating-wise next offseason the way he has up until this point, which is his prerogative, is the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams decided to pay their good-ish, but everyone knows not great quarterback as if he was great. Because what are we going to do? Are we really going to get back on the quarterback treadmill? And then the quarterback proved to be who we knew who he was. And now Gurley's gone, Brandon Cooks is gone, and that team is a team without a country, so to speak. They've got a super expensive quarterback. They still got to pay Jalen. They got a great D tackle that's super expensive, but they don't have the requisite talent to lift up that quarterback. So, no, it wouldn't. I don't know that you would be trading Dak for picks and then use those picks to draft a quarterback, Jenna. I think you might be trading Dak for picks so you can get more cheap young talent, and you bring in Cam, or you bring in the next aging veteran quarterback, or you see if Andy Dalton has picked up enough of the system. But I just think it is on the board now, unless, as Brian mentioned, they do win a couple playoff games. Then they'd be in their first conference championship game, Jen, in a quarter century. And then I think Dak stays either via franchise tag or long-term deal regardless.
Nick, I think you touched on it. They built this team around Dak Prescott, and Dak Prescott succeeded, whether or not you think he's a great quarterback. With all the pieces they've already paid, with all the talent they have around, and he looked great. Brian Westbrook, let me ask you what Nick brought up. Is it possible Jerry Jones is thinking, hey, we have Andy Dalton, we have this amazing team that we have built. Perhaps Andy Dalton is good enough until we figure something out, that could be our, maybe not long-term solution, but short-term if we do indeed lose Dak Prescott?
Possibly Andy Dalton could be your short-term solution, but I can't in my mind think that Andy Dalton is a guy that's going to supplant Dak at the starting quarterback position at any point during this season. To me, you brought him in solely to be a backup for a guy that started 64 straight games, and Dak Prescott, the guy that has led you to a couple of division championships, a guy that's coming off his best season as an NFL player. To me, I just don't see Andy Dalton being that guy. I think the other thing we have to all consider is what's going on in that locker room. And I think last year you had Zeke hold out and you had a lot of different things going on down there in Dallas. Perhaps there are some different things going on at this point, because if I'm a player in that locker room, I'm saying, hold on, time out. You don't want to pay our quarterback? Everybody understands you have to have a quarterback in your system that can go out there and win you games. And I think Dak can do that, but you have to take care of that guy. And if you don't want to take care of Dak, then if I'm the right tackle, if I'm the left defensive end, if I'm one of these players on this team, I'm starting to wonder, will I get taken care of in Dallas like other players have on other football teams? So I'm wondering those things inside the locker room for the Dallas Cowboys as well.
All right, so Dak and Dallas cannot get a deal done. We have much more to come on this story, including which side might regret that move more. But coming up next, Odell.